Good morning, good afternoon, good night, y'all. It is day 3. And in case you don't know why I say that, it's because Black women photographers is global, okay? Y'all are anywhere in the world, and we are grateful for that. So thank you again for coming back to day 3 of the summit. This is the last day, but not the least day. We got some incredible, impactful people with us. And our first illustrious guest we have with us today is a renowned political photographer and an excellent, look at, also fly. Look at that hat. And I saw all your pictures of you. You be fly. This is Tolani. Hey,
Hi.
Tolani, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, I'm pretty good. I have my yerba mate here with me, the caffeine early in the morning to be here and talk to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Man, thank you for having me, man. It's really great to be here.
Truly. Okay, so I want to just get started with your photography journey. Can you take us to the beginning? How you found photography, how you got your first camera, like how this interest sparked for you?
Man, actually, so crazy is my goal and dream was to be a medical doctor. And
Okay.
so that's actually what I went to school for. I actually went to University of Michigan, go blue. And we I mean, that was all I literally was going for it. And that's really, I used to, study for the MCAT and do pretty much everything medicine. I was like literally a nerd. I think I still am. And so one day I started, focusing on books and storytelling and reading documentaries about, weddings and people and just style. And I started realizing that I was straying away from my med school books, right? And I'm the kind of person that I really want to be the best at whatever it is that I do. So I don't want to feel like I'm doing one or doing the other, right? And so I realized that, I have the love for medicine, but at the same time, the love for photography was just budding because I would like literally leave, everything. I would have like classes during the week and I would be driving 12 hours to New York City to go carry light. And then
Wow.
I'll be listening to my classes on, I used to record the lecture, so I'll be listening, doing my assignments, stuff like that. Back to campus, and sometimes I used to fly Spirit Airlines, get the cheapest ticket. Just to carry light, because I was just like the sponge. Like, I felt like because if you can carry light for a photographer, you can really understand how they think because you got to be able to like the person they're shooting. So you got to see the way they see. So that was one of like the most beautiful ways I actually learned, how to be a photographer. I would go anywhere. And so one day my mentor, who's also my uncle, he's like one of the best medical doctors I know. And he was actually one of the people that came up with the medicine during COVID that actually cured the first actual drug that actually cured COVID during the pandemic.
Wow. Shout out to
Yeah,
your uncle.
yeah, Dr. Femi Taco. And yeah, we have a really great relationship. So I went to his house. I went to see him for the weekend in Chicago. And I had this posing book, right? How to pose people, like how to pose couples, how to pose, do headshots, just different things. Literally, I consumed that book in like one day. So I forgot it on his dining table and I
Mhm.
went out with my cousins. And so by the time I came back, I saw that the book wasn't there. And so my uncle comes and he's like, who's the owner of this posing book? Like, what are you doing with a posing book? I was like, oh, it's for my friend that's a photographer in Chicago. Man, I felt so sick to my stomach because this is somebody I really look up to. Like, this
Yeah.
is somebody who's been so instrumental in my journey. And I hated the fact that I had to lie to him. And so that was like one of the first deciding factors. Like, I don't want to do something where I have to like sneak around or lie about it. If
Right.
you're gonna be about it, you just gotta be about it. And then I hit up another mentor of mine because I was like, testing the waters, talking to a couple of people, talking to people I looked up to, and they were like, one of them said, you're never gonna be any, like, you're not gonna be. anything great if you choose photography. Like we don't even remember who documented our wedding, or photography is, like it's like like what are you talking about? Like
Right.
is it okay up there? And
Yeah.
so I actually got that from somebody I really look up to as well. And
Mm.
so I hit up like that's like this is my icon, this is my legend, this is who I learned hard work, determination, resilience, never giving up from Kobe. Kobe Bryant, may his soul rest in peace. And I asked Kobe, I was like, when you were playing basketball, like he knew he was gonna be a basketball player from the age of 7. And I
Right.
was like, when the teachers were telling you, like, yo, you're not gonna make it, what did you do? And he's like, I let it go in one ear and I never let it stay between my ears, and I made sure it came out the other. So as it was going in, it was coming out.
Straight
Because
out.
literally he used to say something like ears don't have bones. There's actually a tweet about it. He actually tweeted it and said ears don't have like bones. So don't let whatever they're saying stay between your ears, essentially. There's a way he said it. There's actually a tweet about this thing, which is crazy. And he told me if you love it, um, you're gonna do excellently well in it because you're gonna give it your all. And he also said something to me. He was like, you know the same thing that I do yourself. We're different animals, but we're the same beast. And I was like, okay, bet. And that was it. And so I, told my dad, mom, they got me a camera for my birthday. I didn't even know how to focus. I didn't like my cousins knew how to work the camera better than I did, but I was determined. And it just, I mean, started on campus, documenting different stuff, studying, reading, consuming everything. And one day, I was photographing this campaign, and I climbed an uncompleted building. And this building was very high, by the way. And so my dad sends a cop to come get me down.
Hmm.
And he's looking at me like, "How did you get up there?" I'm like, "Well, the same way I'm gonna come back down." And I didn't get down. And he's like, "Why?" I was like, "I haven't gotten my shot yet. I'm not gonna climb this building, risk my life to get the shot, and then come down
Not get the shot.
and get the shot." Exactly. And I'm cutting the story short here because it's a long story. But and I think that was to my dad. That was what showed my dad that I was passionate about it. My mom was like day one. She was like supportive from day one. My dad and I actually we got into a fight.
Mm.
We didn't talk to each other because his dream was I was gonna become the first medical doctor in the family, and he yeah, oh man, there's a story actually. Interestingly enough, I went to see him earlier this year, and I know before we got on the webinar, we were talking about time and how when how do you see your family. So he was joking. He's like, when you were working in the country, we never saw you, and now that you don't work in the country anymore, we've seen you twice already. Like, and so I surprised him, and I went to go see him, and we had a conversation. And
Hmm.
then he brings out this notebook and he shows me, and he's like, there was a time he was gonna do a surgery and he wasn't sure he was gonna make it. So he created a list, a goal, like a goal list of things he needed to do before he went into surgery.
Yeah.
And one of it was make sure you whatever you do, see Tolani through med school.
He really
So
did that for you.
you gotta understand, and this I just knew that this year. I just got to know that this year, and like can you imagine that? So that was how much he really wanted me to be a medical doctor. But
Yeah.
they say man proposes, God disposes. So that's how I
Ooh, a bar.
started. Pretty much.
Okay, so it's crazy. And I mean, like in other conversations, we talked about a similar thing. For the speaker last time, it was about having an immigrant parent who similarly like really wanted her to follow a certain life path, and she chose photography instead, and the difficulties she faced with that. Around what year is it that you're like, okay, I got my photographer, or excuse me, I got my camera, I'm out here shooting. What year did you finally establish that for yourself?
2008, I believe. Yeah. Oh wait.
So
Yeah.
from 2008, you said, you shooting around campus and you're just like figuring out how to learn your camera, to becoming a documentary photographer in the political space. How did you find that route? How did you find this niche? How did you know like that is something that you loved?
So I think I just graduated. This was in 2013, I believe. I'm not sure. It's either 2012, 2013. And so we always, all of us live, we live in America. So our parents at the time, live in Nigeria. So we always used to try to go home every Christmas because that's like the best time. And so we were all home. We were all going home for Christmas. So I had a friend who at the time was working for like CNN. And so she was like, "Oh, hey, I would like to get, some nice candid pictures of the governor of the state." And so I was like, "Oh, bet, I know somebody that can get me in." And so my dad actually was the secretary to the state government
Mhm.
at the time. So he of the Oyo State governor of Oyo State government. And so I didn't even talk to him about this, which is crazy. And I had a friend who knew the media aide to the governor. And so I reached out to him. I'm like, "Hey, yo, I'm in Ibadan. I'm here to see I'm here to see my parents. I want to shoot." You know what is so crazy? I actually rented the cameras and the lenses that I took home because I had enough money for just one body.
Mhm.
So I put all my savings together and I got like a Canon 5D Mark II.
Mm.
But and I needed another body. So a friend of mine gave me his 70 to 200. And then I rented the second camera. So I was literally paying for it, and all the other prime lenses. Because some of these cameras they have kit lenses,
Right.
but they're not as sharp, right? So I rented all the prime lenses. I put all my money into this. And
Mm.
I'm like, I'm going home. I'm gonna go shoot for, CNN. I'm gonna go do this. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, come through. It's the governor's birthday today." I was like, "Oh, for real? Okay." And so we go, a friend of mine actually, his name is Shegun Sotsu. We actually go shoot it together. And they're like, "Oh, it's his birthday." So we shoot the service, we do everything, and they're like, "Oh, are we gonna get this pictures?" I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, sure, sure, sure." One of the things I learned when I was doing the campus photography was I used to be super fast. Like I used to test myself on editing times. So
Mm.
like how they have alpha probase, they have kappa alpha psi, AKAs, deltas,
Right.
sigma. Yeah.
Red
I
sensor.
used to shoot all of their probates. And I used to shoot all of their parties like Frozen Friday, everything. And I would have the images up by like if the party ended at midnight, the images were all up on Facebook by like 2 a.m.
Sheesh. Yeah, you were
Man,
working hard.
I used to test my like I used to beat my time. Like I used to work on that while I was in uni, right? While I was in I was in college.
Yeah.
So that fast forward, you don't know when like your skills are building you up, right? So we get home for Christmas and I'm doing this birthday, and then I have all the images ready for his kids. So I just send it to them on Instagram, and then his wife, the first lady, she gives me her email address, but she wasn't really sure I was gonna send the photos. So I sent the church service, I send the photos, I get home, edit it fast, and next thing I see it, they're like on Instagram, everybody, it's trending because I took a picture of all five of them because they're four girls, one boy. And
Okay.
they took a photo with their mom, all the ladies, and they were all matching. It's a beautiful photo. And it was just trending. Bella Ninja, everybody, talking about it. It was crazy.
Oh.
So at night, my dad wasn't in town. So my dad doesn't know that any of this is going on, by the way. And so somebody calls my dad, like, "We're looking for a girl. She came in with a hat. She was taking photos today." Yada, yada, yada.
Ah.
And my dad was like, "Okay, I think I know who you're talking about." So they call us, they get a car, and his daughter, one of his daughters, she was looking for us because it was his 65th birthday. So they were going to do a surprise for their dad. They had a surprise party for
Okay.
their dad at night, because when you're a governor, you gotta like celebrate your birthday. It's like a state thing. So they were doing their own thing for their dad. Anyway, long and short, me and my friend again, we go cover this surprise party. One of the littiest surprise party ever because Davido was there, Olamide was there, they all came. It was so cool, and we documented everything. Again, images were out right after the party. So all of them are like, posting it on their Instagram, and his daughter, she has like a really big followership on Instagram, Abby KD. And so she like posted it. Everybody was like, man, this is so beautiful. I've never seen your family this way, yada, yada, yada. And then
Mm.
before I leave, I already do an album for them for like the whole thing. And so I go tell his wife, oh, thank you so much. This is an album. And she's like, oh, how much is my bill? I'm like, no, don't worry about it. Here you go. This is my gift to you. Thank you for allowing me to document. And that was it. And so 2 days before I leave, I get a call. And the governor is like, would you like to cover my campaign? Because he was going for re-election.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, I gotta go back to school, med school, like I can't do it. And so my dad and my brother like, I mean, you could take a semester off. It's not gonna hurt. I was like,
Oh, now
nah.
you're bad.
Now exactly, right? But mind you, he just said a semester. He wasn't
Right.
so I'm like, no, 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 I can give it to my friend. Like my friend is here. He's a photographer. This is what he does full time.
Right.
And I'm like, no. So I already recommended it, like negotiated. He was telling me, oh, they must buy this camera for me. They must do this, da, 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 da. And so I go see, the media aide, right? The special advisor to him at the time. And I'm like, oh, I have a friend. He's beautiful. Like this is the work he does. He's so amazing. In fact, I'm learning from him. And they're like, no, we want you.
Wow.
And oh yeah, crazy enough, also, they were shooting his campaign photos. And so they just invited me to come. And so I see this photographer was famous in Ibadan at the time, but he was like old school. So I saw the different poses and I'm like, nah, this is not natural. Because I used to consume a lot of Obama photos. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, there were two people at that point in time who, sometimes you don't really know the things that you're doing, right? So I really looked up to, President Obama. And another person was he was the governor of Lagos State at the time. His name is Babatunde Fashola. And so I used to like literally look at their photos because you look up to people. So their photos like literally educate you about who they are, what they do, what their process is like. That's why I love Pete Souza. Like they literally show you like who this person is. Anyway, so fast forward, I'm like, no, this is not how you pose. Anyway, I didn't bother anymore. So I took pictures from my own camera. And
Yeah.
so the morning they're calling me like, hey, are your pictures ready? I'm like, yeah, yeah. Oh, they're like, they can't reach the photographer that was shooting the night before.
Oh,
So guess what? We're going down the street and I see my images on a billboard. I was
whoa.
like, wait, I was literally screaming in the car. I took my phone out to record, like, wow.
That must have felt so crazy.
Like, and then I would, like I said, I would follow anywhere. I used to stay in the press bus for hours. And then we would go on like a camp. This was all before, this was for Christmas. So I literally shoved my Christmas plans and started shooting.
Yeah.
And the press guys would be like, oh no, we can't get down because we're too far from the governor's car. So you know what I'll do? I'll see that the governor will stop and wave. I'll get down from the press. I'll run, take the picture, try to take the picture, then start back walking, run, get into the press bus, and then we go. That was how hungry I was, and still hungry anyway. But so saw the photos on a billboard. I'm like, man, this has been the best Christmas ever. And then
Truly.
like, hey, I hand it over to my friend. And then he was like, no, we want you. The governor loved his campaign photos. They were the most, and they were the most natural the citizens of the state had ever seen him. They'd never seen him in a t-shirt. They'd never seen him smiling. So everybody, like the photos were like 10 over at the time, right? I won't shoot that today. But so
No, we
yeah,
both, but yeah.
yeah. And so yeah, but man, he did not want me to leave medical school. So now parents accept, I shoot the campaign, he wins, created beautiful images. So now it's time to go back to my life. And guess what? I cannot stop thinking about it. I literally so I started writing a proposal about why it was important, for me to tell his story. He was making history and he would not agree. He was just like, "No, I'm not gonna be the reason you leave med school." And I'm like, "No, this is what I want to do." That's the governor, right? At this stage. And so finally, I was like, forget it. I'm going to Nigeria. So I packed my stuff, go to
Ooh,
Nigeria, but I still have rent, right? I still have my apartment because I'm not
right.
sure it's gonna work. And so I just put it all in, and I I started shooting, but he would not let me follow him. And so one of my colleagues, that his aide de camp, I don't know if you notice some of like the police officers or military people that stand behind the president and stuff like that, or a governor. And so he was like, you know what? I'll hide you. So I used to hide in the boot of the car. And so we'll get to events because he'd be like, I don't need you. Like, why are you following me? I don't need a photographer, I'm
Mm.
like, don't worry, I'm gonna show you, you need me. So I would just jump out of the car and take a picture. And he'd be like, what are you doing here? How did you get
Like, how
here?
you even get here?
How did you get here? He's like, you're so lucky because I had a feeling you were in that car, but you're lucky. And then one day they're looking for a photographer for this big political announcement, and I'm the only person there. And then I jump out, I go take the photo, and the sitting president of Nigeria today, he tells my boss then, he's like, can you see why it's good that she stayed in that car? Because if
Mm.
she did it, who would take this historic photo today? And so next day, the photo was all over the newspaper because there was a big political stalwart who had been in another party, but he was coming to the APC at the time, and it was a big deal. And so I was in the living room, and it was literally a living room picture. And so little by little, he started noticing that other governors started getting female photographers.
Mm.
And he was like, "Oh, they're copying me," and he would say
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And then he was like, so he'll tell them, he's like, "You guys are copying me. You've gone to get your own female photographer," and then little by little, he started like enjoying the idea of it. And yeah, but I think for like the first 3 years, I wasn't on a salary. I wasn't getting paid. I didn't have an appointment. I was just showing up every day because I
Wow.
felt like history had to be made. I wanted to tell his story. It was something I wanted to do. And God just aligned everything. And one year he calls me, he's like, "How are you even doing this? You don't have a salary." By the way, the administration is almost over. And so he gave me an appointment letter, and he kind of just like formalized the whole thing because he had then seen reasons why, documenting his daughter getting married, so many moments, his wife loved me, his kids. I mean, he used to tell me to call him dad. Like he's late now actually. He passed away 4 years ago on June 25th. Senator Abiola Jimobi. Yeah. So but one of the things I'm excited about in the sense is that we have images and his story. And when he passed on, that was one of the things that gave me comfort because I didn't give up on his story. Like I didn't, and now that's the legacy. Every time he's celebrated, I see a photo that I've taken. I know the story behind it. And
That's
fast
crazy.
forward, yeah, fast forward, Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Oshibajo.
Okay, wait,
Uh,
wait, before we get there. Um, yeah, like it's beautiful to see you recall how you just found yourself into being a documentary photographer.
right,
Um, and even the fact that your impact of like essentially you humanizing him, which is sometimes a very difficult thing to do.
right,
And although like I'm not familiar with like the political landscape of Nigeria, just
right,
watching my own political landscape here in America and then being from Chicago, what was going on in Chicago. Chicago's political landscape is like a mess sometimes. And so like being able to witness that firsthand in like my own experience, that's difficult to humanize these people because they have to present in a particular kind of way. And I think it's so special that you can recall the dedication you had off of just an interest that kind of found you, which is like what we've been learning from all of our photographers this entire summit is that like your specialty tends to find you. It's like you kind
Mhm.
of are shooting everything. Like you said, when you first got the camera, you just want to shoot anything. Anybody that will let you shoot, you
I
go and
was
shoot
gonna
it.
be a wedding photographer.
Like, but then the thing that really calls you kind of just pulls you in and you kind of just fall into it and then you stay because you're in love with it. You love the feeling that you're getting and you find the importance. And
Exactly.
I'm glad you mentioned working for the vice president of Nigeria because I definitely want to talk about that. It's such a prestigious role and luckily you had like experience prior working with the governor. What was
That
it like? It seems like a lot of pressure to me to like document people in these types of roles because it seems like there's a lot of rules, where it's like, here's what's allowed, here's what isn't. Could you tell us how it was for you and like how you managed that kind of pressure, or if you felt pressured at all?
so I do know that on big days, so just like kind of like a reverse, I guess, or just to go back a little bit.
Mhm.
So the vice president used to come for a lot of visits to Oyo State. And at the time where, my boss wasn't necessarily kind of getting what I was trying to do, he used to always have a keen appreciation for it. And he was somebody, again, I looked up to. So I loved the way he spoke. I mean, I was like, I used to watch all his speeches. I loved his sense of humor. He had really good, or he has really good diction. And he was just like, I mean, he just reminded me of Barack Obama essentially. And so every time he'll come into town, I used to like wear my best hat and best clothes that day because I was like, oh man, my favorite's coming to town.
Right. Time to
So
put it
it was,
on.
yeah, and I wrote it somewhere like in one of my journals. I'm like, one day I'm gonna, document him. And it wasn't just like whether VP, it wasn't really, I just wrote it down because that was something I wanted to do because I actually had a curious interest, like what is he really like? And so when he called the governor and when we had finished, obviously at this point, the governor had finished his term, he was done. And he was like, I'd like to hire Tolani, is that okay? He's like, oh yeah, sure, And so off the bat, my photographs were questions to answers I had. And this is something I want to like speak to. The governor said something to me one day. He's like, "You would never be Pete Souza, and I would never be Barack Obama because I bought him books. Like I bought him every book. The Rise of Barack Obama, the book Front Row Seat by George Bush's personal photographer, Lukesh, who did the books on Fashola, who was the governor of Lagos State." Like any book that you could find about political photography or presidential photography, I got it for the governor so he could understand what it was I was trying to do. And so he just told me, and I kind of felt, I felt kind of bad when he said that. But then I was like, well, he's right. So guess what? I'm not gonna try to make you be someone you're not. I'm just gonna tell the story of who you are and how you are. And I saw that that was what people connected with because people would tell me like, "Oh, you weren't lying about that." Like he used to have like a candy in his pocket, and every time he saw his grandkids, he'll just be like peekaboo, and he'll open his hand and do magic and give them the candy, and they used to be so happy. It was like the best thing in the world. So he used to look forward to doing that,
Right.
and so I would tell stories about that. And people one day they were having like a big event, and another photographer came and he literally watched it happen. And he was like, "Oh my God, I just saw your stories and your photos live in the flesh." And that to me was like, that's the kind of photographer I want to be. Somebody who's authentic, not faking anything, not posing anything. What you see is what you get. What I'm saying is what you'll see. I'm not gonna come and, tell you some cock and bull or say, oh, vote. No, I'm just gonna, say it as it is. And so I got to the VP prof, and I did the same thing. Cause when the first time I had a meeting with him, I was like, obviously you learned the lessons from the governor, right? So I was like, sir, I'm only gonna do this if you give me all access.
Mm.
I want all access or nothing. Like, if not, let's just stop this while, I'm ready to walk away. And he was like, no, that's actually what I want. I like, and then I gave him the book, and he had like a library at home and he had a library in the office.
Mm.
And anytime he would bring a book from home to the office, that means he's finished reading it. So he puts it in the office library, which is like really big. And I gave him the book the day before. And the next day he had, at this point, Pete Susan's book had come out, The Intimate Portrait. So he had brought all those stacks of books back to the office. So he had literally consumed all these books. I was like, okay, bingo. We're onto something here. So
That is
like he got it. And I was like, okay. And and so for me, I I love the pressure because I was curious. Like I had questions, like when you like somebody or you look up to somebody, you're like, okay, how do they like why do they speak so well? How are they so intelligent? What did they do? What's their lifestyle? Like you become a sponge, right? It's like Kobe and moves with Michael Jordan. Like he was obsessed with MJ, like the fadeaways, the defense, he'll ask everybody, Gary Payton, Jerry West, Shaq, every great. Kobe was a sponge from everybody. And so I took Kobe's approach, and I
yeah.
took it and I applied it into photography. And that was how I was about my subjects, because I wanted people to I wanted those questions answered. Like, what does the presidential villa look like? What is it like doing a federal executive council meeting? I wanted these questions answered because I also felt like a lot of our history, we weren't telling our story. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna answer a lot of these questions for people. And Prof, I mean, he was down. He understood it, and he just let me do he let me do me, and in fact, he hates pose photos. He hates standing for photos. Like he does not. When you're trying to take a group photo, he's already like snapping his fingers. Like he does not. He wants to like just do you. I'll do me. Like don't tell me to do anything. And I'm like perfect. This is like
Right.
the and one thing he did when I got the job, we had gone to a market,
Mhm.
and he was engaging with the market women to make sure that their accounts had gotten the grant the government was giving. And so this day, funny story, I had this flower white off-white outfit with like these pumas that had like a bow. I mean, I was fly in the morning. And so he comes out and he looks at me and he starts laughing. So I'm like, oh, why is he laughing? I got my answer when we got into the market. Everywhere was muddy.
Um,
Like it was dirty. And I realized everybody had on black clothes and Skechers. And I'm
mm.
like, damn, I didn't get the memo.
I was
Oh,
about to say, why they ain't put you on?
you didn't know, man. Man, those shoes, they got in the mud. I got in the mud. Like I literally, I
Had to do what
stayed.
you had to do.
But so crazy story, right? I took these amazing photos, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And like I told you originally, I'm very fast when it comes to like pushing stuff out. So these photos were already trending before we left the state, right? And so we get back to the office, and this is like my first big assignment with him. So he requests to see, let me just see like the photos you took. And so I take the photos, like, I'm like so happy to go show him, and then he looks at it, he's like, is this all you took? I'm like, no, 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 there's more. Um, you know, like he's like, this is all. Like, what's this? Like, I thought you were ready to do this job. Like
Huh.
like like I'm not impressed. I thought you would have more. So I'm looking at him stunned, like and so he's asking questions like, you say you're a storyteller, but what's this story? And then I started trying to explain. He's like, yeah, but your pictures are not, you're not supposed to explain them. The pictures are supposed to tell the story itself. And I'm legit like, I'm so dumbfounded.
Yeah.
And by the way, these photos are trending, right? Like all over.
Right. Like, what's the disconnect?
So I walk out like so deflated. And so I go to my computer and I literally like edit everything. Like I was in the office that day till like I think 3 a.m. And I sent him like a collage, and I made sure that I didn't write anything. Like so I meant I yeah. And so I sent it to him, and he actually responded and said, okay, thanks. Like, okay, thanks. Okay. And so the next day, all these photos they're all on the front page of all the national newspapers. Like all the newspapers had all these photos. And they were 4 different photos, and they were all over. And so I go to work the next morning and I'm kind of like scared. Like I'm like, okay, do I approach him? Do I like
Yeah.
I
Like,
mean and then he's like, oh, hey, Tolani, how you doing? You all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm like, okay. He's like, so what are you waiting for? Let's go. And okay. But I would not lie to you. That did so much for me. And I was like, okay, he's gonna push me. And that was it. Like he's like, okay, your best is not good enough. You're gonna do better than your best. So every day for all the time I worked with him, I would, even on the field, I'll be like, sometimes when I'm probably like tired and I want to sit down, I'm like, nope, there's a story to tell, there's a shot to get. I gotta do better. I gotta do, and that really drove me. And so I think I'm sure you were probably expecting the answer that I was pressured, but no, it was I no, I loved it. I lived for it. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's clear that y'all grew some really good trust with each other. Because I mean, like you said, you came in like, I need all access or nothing. That was hard, by the way. Like it's like,
I know, but you got to. It's a waste of
right,
time. Yeah,
exactly. That
it's
was
a
really
waste of time. Yeah,
and it clearly, was a really good stepping stone to elevate this relationship for him to come back and be like, nah, I need you to step it up. And
yeah,
then you guys sound like you're just going back and forth in terms of like telling these stories. Now, I want to jump to a question in the chat because it definitely relates. And while I do that, I'll just pull up your Instagram so people can see some of these photos that maybe we're talking about. But Andrea in the chat says, I just shot photos of the UK Parliament candidates running in my constituency for a uni project. So for free, LOL. And like you, I can't stop thinking about how exciting it was to do it. I don't have any connections in media though. What advice would you give to develop and build upon these connections so that one can realistically pursue this as a career? Also, I use the Nikon Z6 II camera and lens from the BWP grant.
hey,
She received it last year, so shout out to BWP always. Hey, shout out to you,
yeah.
Andrea. But yeah, do you have any advice for somebody who doesn't have these types of connections and like how they can grow in documenting in the political landscape?
So I never got out thinking I was gonna, document. Like I said, I used to be a sponge for Pete Souza's photos, but never in my lifetime did I believe that I would be doing something similar to what Pete Souza, did, right? So first of all, it's not about the gear, it's about your eye, right? When you get a chef, right, you don't ask the chef what pot he used to make the meal, right? Because you know it's the ingredients. So that's really first of all how you have to think. Your eye is one of one. And I believe that you should never deprive your audience of your own perspective. Because I mean, why would I want to tell the story like anybody else when mine is original? It's one of one. You know, nobody thinks like you, nobody sees things like you. And so first of all, that's how you got to approach it, Andrea. Like your eye matters, and that's what's important. So for me, the first advice would say build your eye. Be a sponge. Train your eye as much as you can. I mean, I've done like the craziest things from boxing to um like I really just tested myself. And for boxing, you know, boxers have to really be good with anticipate. They have to anticipate that, you know, you don't want to get punched in the face. You got to see it coming, right? And I realized boxing taught me how to anticipate shots, so I could quickly read what was going to happen before it happened. And I really, you know, that's one of the things I really invested in terms of like training my eye. That's one. Two is that I always say that we're one person away from like our biggest breakthrough, right? Um, we have social media now, like it's like on steroids. It's never been the way it is now, right? So promote yourself, put yourself out there, put your work, document your journey, show your process. It's good for you because you get to see your growth, but it's also good for people who are looking for, you know, looking for people who can do that kind of work. And more importantly, you know, just leverage on the relationships, like look at the opportunity. So maybe one of the persons you took a portrait of has like, you know, projects and they're doing stuff, and sometimes you just tag along, you know, tell their story. And it's just like Pete Souza. He said he was he was working for the Chicago Tribune, and then he just saw the time spread on Barack Obama and his family, and he went to meet his editor, and he was like, you know what, I think you should chase down this story. And so he went to document Senator Obama at the time, in the in the U.S. Congress. And that's a big deal, right? And that was where Pete and Obama actually built their relationship. What is crazy was Pete wasn't actually supposed to be President Obama's photographer. It was supposed to be Callie Shell. But Callie Shell had just had a son, and she didn't want to miss the most important moments of his life. So she, you know, she declined the job offer. And then, you know, and you can read about this. She has a book on the Obamas before, you know, she actually has a photo of President Obama washing dishes, and First Lady Michelle Obama doing, I think it was Malia's hair. And you know, that was how the door opened for Pete. But it was because Pete chased his instinct. He saw a potential story and he followed it. And he actually has a book on that. I'm really plugging. It's called The Rise of Barack Obama. But I mean, I'm saying all these things because these are the things I learned, and these are where, you know, these are the things that I took tips from. Also, mentorship. I like an amazing mentor. His name is Jide Alakija, and he also used to push me so much. Like he used to give me, at the time I thought they were very ridiculous assignments, but I used to do every single thing. Like one time he told me I should I should I should photograph my hands in 10 ways. Like I should give him 10 photos of my hands, like how to photograph my hands. And I remember photographing, like, you know how you like try to photograph your hands. And then he was like, no, you got to think outside of the box. And, you know, so the point I'm trying to make is you got to test yourself, you got to challenge yourself. But more importantly, when mentors see that you're willing to do the work and not just to, you know, because they're famous, you want them to mentor you. No, that you actually want to learn. They will seek you out, they will invest in you, and sometimes they open doors. But just put in the work. I mean, chase the stories, do what you're, you know, passionate about, and be authentic. Always make sure you don't lose yourself in what you're doing. Like you can see yourself in in your work, and for me that's important. But you're well on your way. If you're, I mean, you're taking portraits of, I mean, the lords, like they call them, or the right honorables, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, and so you're well on your way. So I'm sure there are people, and people now like actually want photographers to tell their story. So you never know what tomorrow can hold. So That's my
Ooh.
advice. Yeah.
Okay, we have another question from David. He says, "Great lessons learned. They've watched you over the years, and your images are outstanding. Can you
Thank
share
you.
a little knowledge on how to get back on your feet when you feel like it's not actually working?"
Ah, man, I've had those days.
That's why I really wanted to call this one out too, because it's like we've all had those days where we
Yeah,
might be second guessing, like, is this really the path? Like,
yeah.
so what would you say? How would you recommend?
I was telling you how this is probably like one of the first times we've been home for like more than 2 days. And
Right.
even while we were home, I went to the office and I didn't like take one photo. I probably took maybe 4,000 photos in a week, which typically that used to be what I did for breakfast. And I was like, man, so why am I getting up? Like, what am I doing? Um, and I pop a Netflix movie, man, because I actually learned from a lot of DPs. I learned from directors of photography, and Netflix has like some of the best DPs. So if you watch The Crown, House of Cards, Bridgerton, the angles, and so I start watching stuff like that, or I start reading. There is this incredible New York Times photographer, actually two of them. There's Doug Mills and there's Damon Winter, and they are so amazing. And I go look for all the articles their photos are featured, and then I get inspired again. Or I go to the Obama White House Flickr page, which is archived, or even the current administration, the Biden Harris administration, and I mean, I just consume images. Like I just look at different things, and you see that you get your motivation again, and I just get going. You can't be down on yourself too long. And sometimes creatives, we need to just spend time doing nothing. Because sometimes our brain, and I could be literally sitting on the couch watching a movie and I can get like 10 ideas. I fight rest so much, but when I rest, like my brain is beaming of ideas. And sometimes you need that too. So
Yeah, give your brain some time to actually recoup itself. And that also including your body. Like as a photographer, it's such a physical job sometimes. We putting ourselves in these interesting positions to get the shot, holding these like workouts essentially. Like you're a deep squat holding it for a long time.
yeah, box, running,
And so
treadmill.
rest
Yeah,
is a really important one.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
this question, or not, excuse me, this question, this picture and seeing you in front of me has me realizing, I'm seeing some of the comments as I'm going through your Instagram. Some people are calling you the hat. Now,
yeah.
I have inclination why they do, but can you tell us how that got started?
That's actually my nickname.
Right,
So
like your hat
yeah,
must
a
be
lot
crazy.
of people, yeah, a lot of people call me the hat. And so, and it's crazy. Like if people see my hat, like they just know, like, oh, they know either my boss is in the building or I'm in the building. Like they just call me the hat. And so I just used to put it as a hashtag. I think it was my brother actually, my senior brother, I am emotion. He used to call me the hat. And so I used to just hashtag it, and then people just, they just call me the hat. And hey,
Uh,
and I love it. Like so, I actually I dig it. So yeah. And
you,
sometimes I sign off as it that too. Sometimes when I'm like, joking with some of my friends, or even like actually my previous prof. Sometimes if he wants to joke, and he'll just be like the hat, and so he'll laugh, and so yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So yeah, and it's different.
yeah, I like this nickname. Seeing
Yeah.
some of these photos of you and your fits and your hats, it makes me want to see you do a photographer fit check. Like I do photographer fit checks sometimes because I'm like, sometimes you got to go to set.
Man,
It,
look.
you know what I'm saying? You got to feel yourself some days, and I'm like, I want one from Tolani.
No, you know what? So, remember when I told you that, I'd gone to meet one of like the mentors and he was telling me that, I'm not gonna be great if I become a photographer. So photography, especially, in Nigeria and in Africa, used to be looked at as something that poor people do. And
Mm,
they were never really treated well. Everybody knows they need a photo, but they never really respect the photographer. But I'm happy to say that that's really changing now. And, we have more personal photographers to politicians, to businessmen, to CEOs, to companies. And one of the things that I learned, especially from my dad gets a haircut every week. He gets a lineup every week. My dad's clothes are crispy ironed. Like my dad irons his stuff. Like if he gets them done, like with the dry cleaners, he'll still iron the lines out. Always fresh. You can smell his perfume as soon as he enters the room. Like
yeah.
he like shoes polished. And so that was how like I was raised. So I always thought to myself, first of all, as a photographer, you're in the spaces of a lot of the people that you work with. So body odor is a no-no. So one of my like, you know, other side hustles is I invest in a lot of perfume. Like I get perfumes, I mix them, I create like my own smell, I guess you could say, such that even when I'm in the environment of my subject, they're happy that I'm there because like I'm like a breath of fresh air. I smell good. And then
Yeah,
also because they don't respect, they didn't respect a lot like photographers at the time. At least if you're gonna want to push me or, say I should get out, if you see me in the room looking this fly, smelling good, nice clothes, shoes, and just well dressed, you're gonna think twice before you push me or talk
right. Like
any out.
pick the
Yeah,
man
like
a little bit more.
you like your brain will tell you, okay, I'm sorry, you gotta leave. They'll actually, they'll talk to you with some people just don't have manners, but
Right.
in the same places, they will like, I mean, they would look at the fit and they would not want to stain it. And so they would actually speak to you politely. And then sometimes that's also your entry to let them know what you're trying to do. So I really believe that as photographers, and even just as creatives, you gotta look good and you want your subject to always want you in the room. And that's an important part of how you look and how you smell and how you dress and how you carry yourself. That's very important.
So true.
Yeah.
We are ending our session a little earlier than the normal session, so I want to get to at least two more questions.
Yeah, you got a
So,
lot of you got a lot of Africans on this thing, so you don't want them to you don't want them to protest. So
you
I
know, so I don't want to like miss out on too much. But I got another question from David that says, um, he wants to know how to be better at editing in Lightroom.
color
Which
theory.
yeah, because I'm like
Um,
that's a really wide
yeah,
question.
no,
When
but I mean, shoot, I'm down. I mean, look, I almost missed this session because I was supposed to be airborne right now. So this is something I really wanted to do. So I'm down to like answer whatever. Nothing. I don't think anything is too hard. But color theory. So it's literally like back in art class, they used to teach us colors, like opposite colors, colors that contrast
yeah, the
and
color.
yeah, the color wheel, exactly. And then in that too, there's something called color theory. And in color theory, you kind of see that okay, black and red go, blue and yellow go, and it's really just about skin tone. So you really have to study the skin tone of your subject. And in studying that skin tone, it kind of just helps you. Like if you see a black person and the person is red, then you kind of know that something's up, right? So that kind of just you once you understand color theory and you understand color balance, it helps you see how to shoot. And especially when they're wearing certain colors, you kind of know how to blend that. And editing is something that you just have to practice. So I practice a lot. I still do check times. I still time myself. I still, I still take like 20 photos and try to see how fast I can edit them. And then sometimes when there isn't so much pressure, I build presets. So I play around with the edits and see what works, especially for my subjects. And I have a lot of presets for a lot of like world leaders. So like I just play around. So like, if I see President Biden, like at G7, I have a preset for him because I've photographed him before. So I know like the skin tone, or if I see Vice President Kamala Harris, I like her skin tone. So I mean, and it's the same with like maybe a governor from Lagos State, or I photographed him several times. I have a skin tone, and obviously my principal. So I'm able to apply those presets and tweak them, but that comes with practicing, spending time doing that, doing that work, investing in yourself, and really just man sponge like, and actually also color grading from cinematographers. So I play around with that a lot, and so I'm also able to like gauge like the colors, and then also like your light. Can I just say, by the way, shooting abroad as opposed to Africa, the light is so diffuse. It's like beautiful light, and you can tell that the camera was made for like abroad. um, so sometimes also you kind of have to learn how to balance that. In
Yeah.
places like the light in like Nigeria, for instance, is harsh. Cote d'Ivoire has a lot of like there's a lot of fog, and the weather is sometimes very damp. So you have to be careful. You have to clean your lens all the time because it's always getting foggy. So different like environments like London. I mean, the light in London is amazing. Anywhere in Europe actually, and America.
Because it's
Um,
so gray, and a gray sky is actually some of the best lighting.
like
If
you
you
have
start
no idea. Like
shooting,
blue skies, like you come out of the sky. Oh my God, it's like so amazing for like wedding photos and all that. So I mean,
so
so
David,
huh?
I do want to note for David, in case you don't have Lightroom already, there is a 7-day free trial. We've been putting in the chat all weekend. So please use that if you don't have it already. But if you do and you're just like trying to figure it out in practice, we have other videos from other photographers. Like for example, yesterday's Adobe keynote speaker did a walkthrough of their editing process. And there was a portion on color grading too. So we have a bunch of videos you could watch on YouTube at Black Women Photographers. So please subscribe. Where other photographers here are just letting you know like the different tips and tricks they have for color grading, for regular editing, for making presets like Tolani mentioned, because all of that is like really, really important in terms of how you gain and grow into your own editing style. Um, and so I would love to wrap up because we only have about 15 minutes left. Oh my God. I really want to take a moment to talk about in 2022 how you were featured in Netflix's Strong Black Lens, which was so cool. Shout out to Strong Black Lead. I like watched every episode, listened to everything.
Kara Burnett.
Shout out to Kara. So can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, that was so impactful to me because we were talking about the work and the impact of Black photographers at the time of like BLM and all of our protests that we were doing. Can you talk about what it was like to, be with some of our legends like Jamel Shabazz. Dana Scruggs was there, yesterday's keynote speaker. Mark Clennon, who like we all love. Like, what was that
Yeah.
like for you? And also, what is it like documenting
Alan.
justice for Black people? And I'll
Um,
screen for people to see.
that was pretty much it. Man, it's still a surreal experience. I still, it's something I still can't believe happened because at the time I was the only photographer from Africa, and that was a big deal to me. Like that made me feel that was validation that I was doing something. And just to be in the room with the icon who shot the Beatles cover, or Beyonce or, President Barack Obama or, and I think Dana then had just shot, was it? I think it was Chris Rock. She had just done a shoot. She was just coming off of that. And then, you had Ravi B, Raven Verona, um, and you actually have Flo and Gala
We
there as
got
well.
Flo in there. Shout out to
Yeah,
Flo.
yeah, man, like she just
Baby.
did the dope portrait of the VP of Auntie. And yeah, man, like it was amazing. And you know, we I mean, we got to share our struggles. And like I used to think I was crazy when I was like, man, the camera wasn't made for black skin. So it was interesting when we sat there and like Kwaku Austin, we were like all saying the same thing. And we were like, oh no, we have to tweak, we have to edit. You can't edit black skin the way you edit white skin. That was pretty cool. And sitting with Devin Allen, who took, one of like the most iconic, photos of the Black Lives Matters protest.
I love Devin Allen so
And just the contrast, because I was also working, in government, and we had a protest in Nigeria called NSARS.
much.
And I remember, getting death threats and getting insulted by friends and family members because they're like, you work for the government. And I'm like, well, look, I'm telling a story. I'm not the person, making the. So it was kind of like interesting to see the contrast of the struggles and the danger we got to go through to bring these images to people, and they don't understand that. So it was validation, it was inspiration, and it was like a charge to do more. And it was also, like what I was telling Andrea at the beginning, you never know who's watching. Like I did not know Kara from anywhere. I mean, I didn't, I knew the legends on stage. I mean, I loved all of their work, but I didn't know the team. And by the way, we got 3 Webby Awards if I'm not
Well,
mistaken.
come on. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
congratulations.
yeah. And I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to think of the DP that shot it, but they're just an incredible team. And they actually built like a set of like our images in the desk you see in the video where like the cups are, our images were illuminated with that. And like
Lightbox. That's incredible.
yeah, it was amazing. Like the set was incredible. And I was even joking with my boss at the time. I'm like, yo, you're the first African leader to be on Netflix. And he
Come
was
on.
like, yeah. And yeah, no man, look, it was the honor of my life. I was humbled and honored. And I still watch the videos to get inspiration. So man, Chris, that was amazing, man. It was special. It's still special. So, yeah.
Definitely. I'm gonna let this play for just a couple more seconds and get to some more questions in the chat.
Sure.
From Nancy. Nancy says, thank you so much, Tolani. I'm a lover of your storytelling and insight through the lens. I look forward to meeting you someday, pretty soon, I hope. Or excuse me, she says pretty soon, I guess. My question is, do you have vision towards teaching and mentoring young storytellers around Nigeria? If yes, I'd like to apply.
Yeah, man, I got a lot up my sleeve. And they say that experience, like, when you can teach what you've done is when you've also mastered it. So that is definitely something I really want to do, and I plan to do. I got a couple of invites to speak at different places, so I'll be taking that up. And I'm actually working on something with some of my presidential photographers, like my colleagues, also that so people in Nigeria and all over the world can also get to hear from them, and there's and so yeah, like there's a lot of things up the works. So definitely, I truly want to give my knowledge back. That's something I want to do, and it's something I have to do. So just look out for it. It'll be in your face before you know it.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like this. We have so much to look forward to. Black women photographers loves a little surprise. We always drop in little surprises around here and there. So I love to hear that like you got some stuff up your sleeve for
Oh,
folks.
yeah, we got
Um,
something to get.
folks are looking forward to it too. And I really appreciate that Nancy even just like put herself out there in that way.
For sure.
We got another question from Heather that says, do you still use the 5D Mark II or have you changed over to mirrorless now?
Oh yeah, I mean, I actually shoot a Sony A9 Mark III. That's like my current camera right now. Yeah, so after that 5D, I got a 1DX at the time. And my boss, who was the governor, he hated that sound. Oh my God.
Oh,
He used to chase me out of rooms for it. So I actually went to get a Sony, and because they were the most like silent cameras. They were the cameras that were silent and had full frame at the time.
yeah.
And I remember a lot of people in Nigeria looking at me like they didn't take me seriously because everybody had a Canon. And then one day, I think one of my colleagues he felt the weight of my camera, and he was like, "Whoa!" And then he saw the images. I actually went back to Canon because I had like a deal with Canon Nigeria at the time, but Sony kind of brought me back. So that's what I do. But I think I actually sold the 5D Mark II. I actually regret doing that because that I think that's actually one of the best cameras Canon made. But yeah, that's it.
I do love the 5D series. I still use my 5D Mark IV. And mirrorless is so important. Heather had a second part of the question where she was like, she's wondering if having a lighter camera just helps at all when shooting. And I want to hear your take, but I definitely just want to add to that where it's like, yes, and it depends on what you do. So, like Talani mentioned, in some of the spaces she's in, she needs a quiet shutter. Not everything needs a quiet shutter. But do you have any other advice on mirrorless cameras?
Yeah, like I mean, oof, I wanted a birthday present. I still haven't gotten it yet, but hopefully I do. I really want that Leica Q3. So that's just to tell you how
Yes.
big. Yeah, that's how much I. But actually, mirrorless allows you to like put your cameras in like the most awkward angles. So there was a photo that you had showed earlier, and it was like I think I took it in UAE, and it was a man in between like another man, and they had UAE, they have the regal in their outfits that they wear, and the man never knew I was there because I had this small camera and I was so close to him. And that's what actually mirrorless allows you to do. So a lot of the other cameras are bulky, so there's no way that I'm gonna put that there and people are not gonna be discomforted by the fact that I'm shooting. Like I can take the mirrorless, I can go underneath, I can go high, I can, even when you don't have advantages, like you don't have a ladder or you don't have something to climb, at least my height, I can take the camera above my head, I can see what I'm shooting. And
Yeah.
the Mark III, Sony really did a good one with that because it's the LED screen is 360. So you can tilt it, you can turn it around, you can it's amazing, and it's light, man. So for me, man, mirrorless is go-to because it just allows you to be able to create like out of the box shots. Like I go in between people's shoes now and shoot. Like
Right.
I go all the way down. So like that's exciting for me. So it allows me to challenge myself, to see the world from different perspectives, high, low, side, left, everywhere. Yeah, that's my
Beautiful.
take. Yeah.
With our last 5 minutes here, which I'm so sad is winding down already, I want to talk about your current position. And if you are excited about anything coming forward from that, like currently working for the president of the African Development Bank Group. What are some exciting things coming from that? How has that been? How has this transition been impacting your career?
Um, so it's been challenging in the sense that it's like you're in the multilateral development bank space, and finance heads of finance organizations they tend to be reserved. So they sometimes don't actually it was kind of difficult settling in, especially when you had such a senior role in government, and then you come to a place where, like, the photographers are like, you're the last of the, you're the bottom of the food chain, essentially. So it was you trying to not prove yourself to your boss, but just prove yourself to everyone else all over again. And that was kind of a little bit tiring. And then just having to fight for, certain things to do your work, like that was also tiring, because you've done it, and you don't want to keep doing that. But every opportunity brings challenges, and you learn new ways to kind of just educate people. So that really gave me a challenge to say, okay, you know what, how can I make an impact in this space, such that people now pay attention to, like, their storytelling, their social media, their, just telling their stories and understanding the importance of it. And my boss is actually pretty tech savvy. He loves pictures. He understands, the importance of it. And if there's like a last card, he makes sure that I'm the one that gets it. So that's, so he also, I mean, in terms of like, he also was he really understood the vision of what he wanted to achieve, which was, one of the reasons why he brought me on board. And for me now, one of the sweet parts of this job, or that you're making a difference, was they had a couple of roles around the space, around the MDB space, so like World Bank, IMF, and AFDB, and they were hiring for like comms and media positions, and they wrote must have storytelling experience. And when I
Mm.
first got here, they didn't know what a storyteller meant. They're like, "What's a storyteller?" All I remember is you telling a story. Like, in fact, they were they were trying to even like change the role, because they felt that a lot of people wouldn't recognize what that was. Because that's how much, they're like, I don't want to say like, that's how much away from the world they are, because they're into like finance and development, and media is always like the last thing. So for me, that really made me feel good. And then I also started seeing that heads of MDBs now have social media pages, they have their own photographers, and they're now like paying attention to image making, to graphic designing, and doing reels, and that didn't exist when I started this job. So it's pretty cool to see how much change you can bring just by doing what you love, and really seeing how people on the, like, we just left the G7, and that was pretty iconic. And you know just being able to create stories, and everybody's like, oh yeah, I want these pictures, and they're all like intentional, like, oh, they're talking to the Pope, and they're all like looking, oh yeah, where's my photographer? And that's a place like because we had gone to the G7 finance, and they didn't have photography badges because heads of banks don't have photographers,
Right.
but anyway, long and short of it, that's really been exciting. And it's been exciting also seeing the world, and telling stories that matter for Africa. And more importantly, when I started this, the goal was to change the narrative about Africa's stories, and what Africa is, and how special and creative and talented we are. And I'm just happy to be doing that from this space. And I know we gotta go, but I gotta shout out Polly, man. Polly is so amazing. She's been doing this forever. I'm a big fan of her. She's opened a door. She's created opportunities for so many people. And Polly doesn't even understand the destinies she's changed, just in the trajectory she's changed for women photographers, just by this platform that she's created. I'm sure she just thought, I'm doing something in my little corner here, but you're changing lives all over the world. And I just have to give you your flowers. You are iconic, you're inspirational. And I just pray that God continues to give you the strength to keep doing this. And just know that whatever you need anytime, we're here for you. We're rooting for you, and we will always come through for Black women photographers. And shout out to you. I've been watching you for like the last 3 days. You've been going ham. You've been asking all the right questions. Like I told you, I'm a sponge, so I've been watching, I've been learning a couple of things. I really love the medical doctor yesterday and Dana, obviously.
Yeah.
So I gotta give you guys your flowers. You're making, the women proud and you're showing out. So I just want to appreciate you all for having me. And this is something we've been trying to do for a long time. And I'm just happy that, we can finally get it done. So thank you for
I'm
having
glad
me.
it finally worked out. Thank you, Talani. Everybody drop the flower emoji for Polly in the chat because
Yeah.
you said open door, but honestly, Polly kicked it down like
Down.
really help
Exactly.
women globally. Like Black Women Photographers is a global organization at this point. Like we're in over 70 countries, I think now. We're like representing Black women photographers across the world. And we're super grateful to be in Polly's presence and yet let alone be able to be on her platform like this. So we thank you, Polly. We thank you, Talani. There were so many more questions I wanted to ask, and I'm sorry it had to be so short today. But I'm so grateful you were here. I don't know if y'all know, but Talani live on the road, okay? Like we had to get in where we fit in with Talani. And so we really appreciate that you made the time for us. Um,
No, man, it's my honor. The universe was definitely aligned to make this happen. So I'm glad. But I mean, hey, if you have more questions, you could just comment on, my page or whatever, and I'll try to respond while waiting in airports and stuff and
Right.
to
Yes,
you. So,
please follow Talani if you don't already. We dropped her Instagram in the chat as well. But again, we just want to say thank you to everybody who showed up and thank you to our sponsor, Adobe Lightroom. They've been our sponsor all 3 years, and we're grateful that we can like support and have this partnership to bring you guys this type of educational resource so we can like help each other and work together. Make sure y'all use the hashtag BWP Summit because we're giving away a free year of Adobe Photography Plan, which is Photoshop and Lightroom. So if you guys want to like figure out how to elevate your editing game, you can win it for free for a full year. And with that, I just want to take a little screenshot before we go. Is that okay?
yeah, of course.
Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you again, Talani, and we'll see y'all in a couple minutes for the next speaker.
Bye.